the whole, WHOLE, is not equal to the sum of the parts. It's a very important inequality. Okay. The whole, WHOLE, is equal to the sum of the parts plus their integration. And another equation, the whole, WHOLE, is equal to sum of the parts multiplied by their integration. Now, both equations are true. You know why? I always give this example. Just give me some time. Hari, do you have a ball pen by your side?
Yeah, I do have a ball pen, yes.
Can you disassemble the ball pen and show everybody what we do?
Yeah, sure.
You can take over, Hari, at this stage. You know exactly what we do. Yeah. You can even show the table on which you have disassembled the ball pen.
That may be difficult, but you can see actually.
Okay, great.
Now.
So all the parts are in your hand?
Yes, all the parts are in my hands.
Okay.
Can anybody say that do I have a ball pen in my hand now?
Okay, simple question to everybody. Does Hari hold a ball pen in his hand right now?
Yes, sir.
Bhuvan says yes.
Bhuvan says yes. Dr. Kalpana says no. Why yes, why no?
Yes, sir.
It's holding part of the ball pen.
Absolutely, Mythili. Absolutely, you're right.
Absolutely.
Bhuvan,
right.
sir, Hari is holding the parts of the ball pen, not the ball pen itself, not the functional ball pen itself. Okay, correct. Yeah,
okay.
Correct, Dr. Kalpana. Yeah, go ahead, Hari. Yeah.
So now, that is exactly what we say. This is, for example, now I have a part here. You have a refill assembly, then you have the body of the pen, you have the neck, and also you have the cap. That's how that's the parts of the ball pen. And we can still go further, but I'm not going to go further into that. Right. So now we only are going to use this refill to write. Right. So the refill assembly is what is really going to help us write. Right. So, but if I have only this particular body, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the thing is not visible to the people. I'm not sure.
No, it's visible to me. Visible? I don't know if anybody else is not able to see.
Because I can't see that. Maybe that's the reason. Yeah. It's visible. Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So, as long as the parts are assembled in a particular fashion, we don't have a ball pen with which we can write, isn't it? So the whole, I mean, as long as the parts are separate. Okay, so the functionalities of the parts are minimal. As long as the parts are separate, be it refill assembly or be it the body or be it the cap or whatever it is, the functionality of individual parts is separate. So what is the function of a cap? It is to protect maybe the spillage of ink or whatever it is. It is to protect the refill assembly from getting hardened. Or what is the function of the body? The function of the body is to actually help hold, the writer hold the pen very clearly and all those things. But only if all of them are assembled together in a particular fashion, only if they are assembled together in a particular fashion, it becomes...
Hari, the correct word is integrated.
Integrated. So when they are integrated together in a particular fashion, only then it becomes a ball pen. Okay, so the idea here is this particular ball pen, okay, or now, what we call it as the thing, can only, this is where we can actually use it for writing. Previously, it was not. Individually, the functions are not really helpful in writing. No, with the body, you cannot keep writing. Maybe there are. LSG will talk about that beautiful example of.
That's a separate one. Maybe today it might be. We won't have time. But I must tell you, there's a funny example of what happened in IIT Madras when I was a teacher. But maybe I'll reserve it for another day, not today.
Okay. We may not have time to do that. So with this body, we cannot write the pen. So the characteristics of the parts were different, but when they come as a whole, the characteristics changes completely. When they come together as a whole, the characteristics changes completely, right? So now we have a ball pen, we can use it to hold and we can use it to write. So that is what is emergent. Similarly with bicycle, let's take bicycle for example. In bicycle, you have wheels, you have handlebar, you have seat, you have the chassis, I don't know what it is called as chassis,
The
and you have
frame.
the frame, and you have carriers and all those things. So with all those individual parts, you cannot use that bicycle for cycling or riding the bicycle and going from point A to point B. Only you assemble them in a certain fashion, okay, they actually become a bicycle. Okay, that particular thing is actually called as when the sum of that particular parts come together, they become greater than the whole. When they become the greater than the whole, they solve a
No,
different
they form the whole, Hari.
they form the
They-
whole, and
they
then
form the whole.
they actually become a different purpose. I mean, they are used for a purpose which is actually meant to be. Otherwise, we don't really, have a bicycle when you don't integrate it together. So the key in systems thinking is integration. The key there
So
is
let's get back to the equation. The whole is
Okay,
equal to the
let
sum
me
of the
share that
parts.
equation, Ellis. I have that equation with me. Just wanted to
Yeah,
share
sure.
it, but I don't know where it is.
Please do that.
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah, please share it, Hari, please.
Yeah. 1 minute.
And we can explain the two equations also and why they are true.
Yes. Yeah. Can people see this?
No, it's not yet come, Hari. It's coming. Yeah,
Ah.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll take that equation and the two interpretations that the whole on the left-hand side, actually Hari has put it on the right-hand side. Okay.
Yes.
The whole on the left-hand side is equal to the sum of the parts plus their integration. Now, a simple question. When integration is 0, what are you left with? When integration is 0 in the first equation, what remains? The whole is equal to the sum of the parts, correct? That means it is exactly like what Hari was holding in his hand. The sum of the parts of the ball pen were in his hands, but he didn't have the full functionality of a ball pen in his hand at that time. Okay. So that was first equation. Now comes the second equation. The whole is equal to the sum of the parts multiplied by their integration. Now, how do you interpret it? Now, if integration is 0, that equation gets interpreted as you don't have a whole with you. I hope you got it. The whole is 0 because sum of the parts multiplied by 0 is 0. That means you don't have a whole with you. You only are remaining with the sum of the parts. Now, these are strong reasons why when we deal with systems, it's very important to have sound knowledge of systems thinking, particularly. Okay. Given this, in fact, I wanted to share some examples of how deliberate intervention has caused serious problems for society. And deliberate intervention by experts, please note this, deliberate intervention by experts has led to serious problems. Hari, would you be able to share the Cobra effect?
Yeah, sure. That's something very interesting which LSG and I really like. Okay, this happened in the British India in the 1800s and the late 1800s. Okay, when these British people are really scared about Cobra. Okay, so what they actually wanted to do is they wanted to eliminate all the Cobra so that they don't really be scared about the Cobra anymore. So all of a sudden they came up with a very interesting act or a rule which says that anybody who brings the tail of a cobra, okay, anybody who brings the tail of a cobra, deposits it with some officer will get 1 rupee. Okay, we are talking something about 1870s, where 1 rupee is like such a big sum. Okay, will be equivalent to some 10,000 or whatever it is now. So that's the number which they were really wanting to give to the people if they bring the tail of the cobra. Okay, so when this particular announcement were made, a lot of people were actually killing the cobra and they were cutting the tails of the cobra and then producing it and they were making money. Okay, so slowly the cobra menace actually came down. Okay, so then people were really happy. The British officers were really happy. Oh my God, the cobra is actually coming down. Then suddenly what happened? People started realizing that Oh my God. So if we keep killing all these cobra left, right, and center, we will not have any cobra left with. And how can we make money? Okay. Suddenly that's when the when there is a deficit in the resources, that is when immediately we'll start thinking. Why do we talk about climate change so much now? Because we have come to such a stage where if we don't really act upon it, we will be really facing a big trouble in the longer run. Same way, if somebody, the yesteryears of Indians, if they really do not act upon the cobra population, they will not be able to make more money. So essentially what they did, I should not kill the cobra, I should start cutting the tail of the cobra alone. Okay. So then allow the cobra to breed and then the cobra pops. So they started cutting the tail of the cobra and started making money there. All right. So then what happened after some point in time, while the cobra menace were low, suddenly started increasing a little bit more and more and more. Right. So then what happened at some point in time, British officers were clueless as to what is happening. So suddenly some ingenious entrepreneurial minded Indians, what they did, they started, why just leave the cobra in the wild? Let me start breeding cobra in my underground, in my this thing. So they started breeding cobra. So what happened, once the cobra came of a different size, they start cutting the tail of the cobra and then they started making money. So if you go to some house in their underground, in their basement or whatever, there will be a lot of cobras reeling there. Right. And then at some point in time, British people realized that this particular this thing is not announcement is not working anymore because the people have started gaming the system. People have started, creating. I mean, making money, but without actually killing the cobra. Okay. So then they realized their folly, and then they immediately repealed this act. They said, "Enough is enough. We are not going to give any money whatsoever for killing the cobra or getting the cobra's tail." Now you could imagine what would have happened. Can somebody tell what would have happened?
Yeah, it'll be fun. Try to make your guesses. Use the chat box. I'm sure we'll all have some fun over the next 2-3 minutes.
No, they did not kill them. What they did is actually they let the cobra out in the wild. Whatever cobra that they were actually breeding underground, they let all of them in the wild. Okay, so then what happened? It became a much bigger menace than actually it was originally.
Than the original menace.
Okay, it became such a big menace of higher proportion that the British did not know what to do. Okay, so I'll give you a recent example of this. This is much fun, and it is also very relevant in our present context. I read it in somewhere in some newspaper. Okay, that there is something called as clean development mechanism. Okay, so this clean development mechanism gives carbon credit to the people who sequester carbon from the atmosphere. Okay, there are plenty of ways in which you can sequester carbon. Okay, what you can do is you can sequester either carbon dioxide or you can sequester methane. You can sequester hydrofluorocarbons and all those. If you sequester 1 kg of carbon dioxide, that means you are removing 1 carbon dioxide equivalent from the atmosphere. But if you take 1 kg of methane from the atmosphere, you are actually removing 28 kgs of carbon dioxide equivalent. And if you do the same with HFC, you are removing actually 11,000 kgs of carbon dioxide equivalents from the atmosphere. Okay. So what this clean development mechanism did is that they gave carbon credit according to the intensity of the gas that you try to sequester. So hydrofluorocarbon, if you remove 1 kg of hydrofluorocarbon from the atmosphere, you get 11,000 rupees. If you remove 1 kg of methane, you would get 28 rupees. If you remove 1 kg of carbon dioxide, you will get 1 rupee. That was the plan. This what happened. So a lot of Indian entrepreneurs, they were interested. Wow, that's quite very nice. And they started sequestering the HFCs, hydrofluorocarbon, from the atmosphere. And suddenly there is an ingenious mind that started working. Hey, to make 1 kg of HFC, it is going to cost me only 50 rupees. Okay. And I get to sequester that, I get 11,000 rupees. Why don't I make that 1 kg? Okay. And then show that 1 kg as I sequester and then make money out of it. So what people started doing, gaming the system again. So what they did is they started producing HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, in a canister, and showed the same canister to the people and started making carbon credits. So essentially, they started making a profit of 10,950 per whatever kg it is. You're getting my point. So therefore, what essentially happened there is, CDC, Clean Development Mechanism, went into loss, obviously. So they know about the Cobra effect. Okay, so the moment they know about Cobra effect, they cannot just let the people say that we are stopping this. Okay, so what they essentially have to do, they'll have to be regulating the system. So so that they don't let these hydrofluorocarbons into the atmosphere. Okay, so then a lot of stricter policies and rules and regulations and everything came. And Indian government also banned producing hydrofluorocarbons without any purpose and all those things. A lot of things, changes later happened. Now you can understand as to how if we stop missing one connection, if you miss one connection, the kind of problem that it will create in the long run. The idea of systems thinking here is to make sure that you don't miss such connections. Okay, so maybe LSG will be talking about the windows of perception to explain this particular concept. LSG, you're on mute, LSG.
No, I didn't mute myself. I think something else is happening. I'm sorry. As Mohan said, maybe anybody can do anything. I'm sorry, I didn't mute it. But I would request people not to mute me unnecessarily. Okay.
That's the problem.
Okay.
Uncontrollable input.
Okay, but that's okay. Now, the point is this. I hope you've got a key message from whatever Hari had shared, I'll ask a question to you. Let's go with the carbon sequestration payment policy. Okay. Now, I hope all of you are able to quickly realize that the people who formulated the policy were experts. I mean, they're not some fool sitting somewhere. Agree? Okay. Please understand, very often, counterintuitive results or bad surprises are happening because of expert intervention. Please make a note of this. So sometimes experts who are not systems thinkers, they may do what are known as first order interventions and second order interventions and actually cause bad surprises to happen in space and time. In fact, one of the points that Hari often talks about is the separation of results of intervention on space and time. Okay. And there are some fantastic examples to show you how the intervention happens at one point in time in one location and the results happen at a totally different point in time, sometimes separated by decades. Okay. And in a location which is thousands of kilometers away from the first location. Okay. So this is also a systemic phenomenon. Now this happens because of the connectivity of systems. And the sooner we understand these connectivities, the better it is for all of us. Okay. So these are important reasons as to why the knowledge of systems thinking is very important to everybody, and especially teachers, and especially experts, And I can go on giving you example of, in fact, one of my hobbies in life has been to collect example after example of counterintuitive results or bad surprises. And I have a huge collection of them, huge collection.
Today I was going
and I can assure you of one thing, the moment you step into the world of healthcare, especially modern healthcare and allopathic medicine, by the way, don't immediately think I'm against allopathic medicine and evidence-based medicine. I am not. I am only saying be very careful. Okay, be very, very careful. Not all this is going to really help you solve a problem. Sometimes an expert intervention may cause even the death of a person who may not have died otherwise. It's very, very important. Who may not have died otherwise. Okay.
Today I saw an
these are some of the issues which we have to tackle.
Today I saw an interesting example. Okay, it's about maybe this will be of interest to the audience also, about the email spamming. Okay, that's quite an interesting thing. So we used to know that the email spamming is such a very big, obnoxious thing for us. No, when you open our email, you see hundreds of spams hitting our inboxes, and we don't really want them to be in the inboxes. So then we'll have to patiently select each one of them and then put it into the spam. That's used to happen previously. So many of these people, they came up with filters, okay, to spam the automatically spam the emails, promotional emails and other emails. Okay, so what do you think could have happened in such situations? Okay, so when people started using filters, okay, so initially the number of spams which came into the inbox reduced, but after some point in time, there are more number of spams which started coming, because even though the filters were actually present, because people started gaming again. Okay, people started knowing that these are the keywords that is used, these are red flagged by the filters, and therefore I will avoid using those keywords. Sort of new industry which started coming across around that, where people are very, very careful in designing their emails with less number of links, with not using a certain number of words like promotions and discounts and all those things. These are the words that they don't really use. And then they started creating a email advertisement, and then started spamming. So a whole sort of new industry started revolving around it. You can actually see as to how that any intervention that you try to do sometimes need not always result in a success. Okay, so this filter is another example of that. Okay, there are plenty of other examples. Maybe for the scarcity of the time, you're not going deeper into that.
I hope you're all convinced of the reality of bad surprises and counterintuitive results. Okay, we don't need to convince you further. Okay. Now, how will systems thinking help you? That's a logically correct question. Now, what you can do is, first point I would like all of us to understand is, we cannot solve problems. We can only solve specific problems. We have to learn to accept the truth that while we are humans, we will always live with problems. But the beauty is, we can do certain interventions in such a way that we can postpone the occurrence of counterintuitive results. You can lower the intensity of counterintuitive results through some intelligent interventions. I hope this point is clear. So next time anybody comes and tells you that problems can be solved forever, in simple Tamil, you can tell them poda, which means what nonsense are you talking? It cannot happen. It cannot happen ever. Okay. You cannot solve all problems forever. Okay. Now, are there people who have solved problems forever? Yeah, there are. Historically, even in our own land, we have some examples of people who have apparently solved problems for themselves, at least. You can go back in time right up.
I would say, that they made the problems irrelevant.
Yeah, there are people. Yeah, absolutely right. There are people who made the idea of problems irrelevant. Actually, you're right, Harry. Thank you very much. You can go back in history right up to Mahavira and come down to Gautama Buddha and come down right down to Ramana Maharshi in Tiruvannamalai. These are all personalities who are known to have made problems irrelevant. No problem is relevant to them because they took a different line. Now, am I suggesting that all of us become Mahavira or Buddha or Ramana Maharshi? No, I am not doing that. You can be a Pakka Karma Yogi in this world with the understanding that you have a right to intervene, but you don't have a right to what will follow your intervention. This is exactly the message which has been conveyed in the Bhagavad Gita also. Okay, there is great truth in the Bhagavad Gita. There is great truth. Okay, so you have a right to definitely intervene when you're facing some situation, but you don't have a right to what will follow after your intervention. So this is a very big message from philosophy also. Okay, so as long as you're convinced that you can intervene, and if you overlay whatever Hari and I have shared with you, your intervention should be intelligent enough to see to it that you can postpone counterintuitive results or you lower the intensity of counterintuitive results. This is what we can attempt to do. Okay. Now, this is a very important lesson from systems thinking. Okay. This is what you can do. Now comes a question.
Maybe
Is
we can
there-
ask a question. Maybe we can ask a question. Okay, so if you were an expert in that and a British official, okay, would you have done something what they announced, or if you really wanted to kill the cobras, what measure would you have taken? Can you think about it? Maybe you ponder about it. You don't have to answer it right now.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
just
they don't
think
need to
about
answer now because it will take too much of time.
too
Okay.
much time. Yeah, you just think about it. So
You
that's
just
the
think
key.
about it. It's an interesting thing, you know. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are
So-
very interesting things. Huh? It has happened in India also. There'll be some obscure book which nobody would read otherwise. And then some obscure group will go and say, ban this book. And then even people who don't know about the book want to buy the book and read it.
You know, the recent
This
example
is
is the Kerala story, LSG. Kerala story, you know about that?
Which is that? Okay.
Kerala
Tell me something. Even I read about it yesterday. Tell me something, please.
Okay, there was such a hue and cry about that movie Kerala story because it is portraying the state in a bad light. Where that movie talks that there are about 32,000 girl children who are Hindu girl children who became Muslims, and then they were actually exported to ISIS countries like Iraq and Syria. Okay, so that's what the movie storyline goes about. Okay, so then which did not really went into good books, and it was not taken in the good light by the people of Kerala and also by a lot of other social this thing, right? So then what happened is today it actually boxed about 8 crores. Box office is about 8 crores, which is better than the Guardians of the Galaxy. So what? That's what the news I read today. So what happens is the moment you try to oppose something, the curiosity in us actually wants to go and look into what is
Drives us in a
happening.
different direction.
Padmavat is another example. You will be knowing about it.
Yeah,
So
Padmavat, same
essentially-
thing happened, but maybe, I mean, there is a conspiracy theory that it was done on purpose, Hari, actually.
Yes.
Okay. Hari, there are people who feel that it was done purposely by the promoters of the film, you know.
Correct. Mallika,
So,
you're
but
right.
anyway,
It's
that's
a
also
marketing
possible.
strategy also. Yes, it is a marketing strategy too. Correct. You're right.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can use
Possible.
it. Yes, possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea is you
Correct.
must know the connectivity. You must know the connectivity. That's
Okay.
the-
So that is the thing. Now, I'm going to share something with you which is very interesting. One of the fundamental frameworks in systems thinking, which Hari mentioned, which all of us have to be aware of, it's a wonderful framework. It's called the window of perception. Okay. Now, what is this window of perception? Okay. Now, please note this concept. If you have a pen and paper, please use those things. Okay. Draw an x-axis and a y-axis. Okay. The x-axis, as is the convention, is time. Okay. The x-axis runs across time for you from your left to your right. Okay. The x-axis runs time. The y-axis is space. Okay. I hope you've got the frame. Y-axis is space. Okay. Now, what do? You calibrate the x-axis as today, tomorrow, next week, next fortnight, next month, next quarter, next 6 months, maybe next year, next decade, or next 5 years, next decade, next century, next millennium, and so on. And the end of the x-axis is eternity. Eternity. I hope this is clear. Are all of you clear about the calibration that I've shared with you? Starting with today, tomorrow, next week, next fortnight, next month, next quarter, next 6 months, next year, next 5 years, next decade, next century, next millennium, until eternity. You go on till eternity.
It's not.
Now
to
you
scale.
calibrate the y-axis as me, my family, my neighborhood, my community, my state. I'm talking of India, or province, my state, my nation, my region, Asian region, South Asian region, etc. And go right up to the end of the y-axis is universality. I hope you've got it. So the end of the x-axis is eternity, and the end of the y-axis is universality. If you have done this calibration of the x and y-axis, now this concept was first enunciated by a few great thinkers who called themselves the Club of Rome. This was actually proposed. Of course, the term window of perception was not used by them. Okay. That was not used by them. It came about later. Okay. I am using the word window of perception. What the team, the head of the team, Professor Meadows of MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, said, now this takes you back to 1969, 1970. Okay. So we are talking of 53 years ago. And that book is available even now, Limits to Growth. You can use Google and access the book also. Please do that. It's a nice, interesting work where the Club of Rome, the intellectuals who constituted the Club of Rome, were trying to simulate the whole planet, the behavior of the whole planet in terms of population, human population growth, urbanization, industrialization, agricultural production, pollution, and so on. Are you getting it? Okay. So they tried to capture certain key variables to characterize what was happening in our planet in the 60s itself. I want all of us to know that even in the 1960s, issues of pollution had already started, And here I wish to guide all of you that one of the earliest modern works on sustainability is by a very lesser known author called J.C. Kumarappa, who was a fantastic thinker and a Gandhian to the core. Okay. Please read his book, The Economy of Permanence. It is a small book and you will definitely benefit by reading that book. It's a small book. It's called The Economy of Permanence, and it is one of the earliest modern works in sustainability theory. Unfortunately, I was just talking to somebody in the afternoon earlier today. In India, we still suffer from what's called the white skin syndrome. What is this white skin syndrome? We still believe people with a white skin are far superior than us. I don't know when we are going to find our intellectual independence. What is the point of political independence on 15th August 1947 when on, what is today? When on 6th May 2023, we still have not shown strong evidence of intellectual independence. I don't understand what we are doing. Okay, I can go on giving you examples, and I'm pretty upset with this kind of a slavery that's happening in our minds. Anyway, Kumarappa's work is very important for us. After that, many works came, including the great one by Rachel Carson, The Silent Spring, where the lady went into huge research and talked about the effects of DDT on agriculture, So I'm just guiding you to sustainability because today's systems thinking and economy of permanence is by J.C. Kumarappa. Hari, it is by J.C. Kumarappa. I can type it out. I'll type it out.
I'll do that.
No, because others can benefit from these books. Kumarappa's work is a fantastic work actually, but less known. But Silent Spring is very well known. Okay. And even in India. So if you quiz a lot of people, including people who worked on sustainability, they will know Rachel Carson, but they won't know Kumarappa. Why? Because he's dark skinned. Rachel Carson is white skinned. I don't know. This mental slavery has to go. Anyway, we'll come back to this. Now, Limits to Growth was a much later work where they had already talked about the issues of sustainability. And they built a huge simulation model, computer simulation model. I'm taking you back in time, 53 years ago. The book was published in 1970-71, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And in that book, they had talked about the idea of the window of perception. What Professor Meadows pointed out, very wise, very wise, very, very wise. That team pointed out that most human beings tend to perceive the world around them with a window of perception characterized by me on the y-axis and today on the x-axis. Are you understanding? We seem to want to understand the world in terms of me today. Unfortunately, I have come across several human beings, perhaps hundreds of them, who don't even look at me today, but me now. Okay. My dear friends, the real danger of not using systems thinking comes from this kind of a stupid window of perception that millions of people tend to use, thinking that they have understood life and living and everything else. This is the real problem. This is the real problem. If you are a good systems thinker, you will tend to use a larger window of perception. Now, what happens? I'm coming to the last part of what we want to present so that we'll have time for questions and answers also. Okay. What is this last part? There are two types of systems that we deal with in our lives. The first type is called natural systems, which are there whether we are there or not. They will be there. You know, please understand, nature is vital for human beings. Human beings need not be vital for nature. Please understand this simple truth. I'm stating this because we have to become more humble as creatures in the universe. Bloody hell, we are also creatures. Okay, we have some intelligence. But the point is, we have to use the intelligence for larger objectives. And what are these larger objectives? We have to work towards individual and collective peace, shanti. Okay, we have to work towards a world of peace, tranquility, and serenity. Unfortunately, even in our mythology, there was a big war that was fought, the Mahabharata war, to have longer peace, enduring peace, you know. But it is sad, but that's the way the game is played. That's the way the game of life is played. It is very sad. It's very sad. But we have to move away from this. Okay. Now comes the question. I hope all of you are agreeing. If you use a small window of perception, your mind will not see the universe. Your mind will see a much smaller subset of what's happening in the universe. Naturally, when you use that window of perception for your decision making in daily life, my dear friends, you are asking for trouble. You're really asking for trouble. Please don't do that. I'm sure you agree. All the great names that I shared with you, Mahavira or Gautama Buddha, people in our land, or Ramana Maharshi, very late. I hope all of you know that Ramana Maharshi died in 1950. So we're talking the last century. Okay. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. You can think of Kabir. I mean, there are so many brilliant people who have walked our land. And I'm very proud that I have been born in this land. We are definitely, without doubt, a sacred land. And the better we preserve the sanctity of this land, the better we will be, you know. And this is very important for peace all around. And that is the message of systems thinking. So we deal with natural systems and human-made systems. Okay. As I said, natural systems, they will exist whether you exist or not. Human-made systems are systems with a specific purpose with which they are made, like the ball pen, or even an organization like the railways of Government of India, you know. All of these are human-made systems. Okay. Human-made systems are designed with a purpose. Now, all these systems are made of elements or parts or entities. We tend to use the term entities. Okay. And there are two types of entities that you have to deal with: physical entities and conceptual entities. Now, these entities are real. Physical entities are real. You and I are real. You are conscious. I am conscious. You are seeing me virtually. I am seeing you virtually thanks to technology. Okay. Now, this is one positive or desirable application of technology. There are many undesirable applications also. We'll not talk about that today. Okay. So entities which are present in human design systems interact with each other in order to fulfill the purpose for which that system is designed. I hope you got it. Okay. Now, the core difference between systems thinking and design thinking, I mean, those of you who are design thinking aficionados, I want you to understand this, is design thinking does not incorporate explicitly the concept of the window of perception. The concept of the window of perception is very unique to systems thinking. And that is where systems thinking is definitely superior to design thinking. Undoubtedly superior to design thinking. Okay. And not only that, for those of you who want to learn more, go to Google, uncle, and please type in the keywords bad outcomes of design thinking. you'll come to a huge set of results on that. So design thinking also does not guarantee you robust solutions. Systems thinking guarantees you robust long-term solutions. I hope you understand this. Okay. And don't forget what I told you. You cannot solve problems forever. It is not possible. Be humble. We are all human beings. We have to be humble. We have a lifetime. Okay. We are born, we grow, and we die. There's no exception to this. Okay. And of course, according to at least Hindu philosophical thought, metaphysical thought, we come back. You're born, you grow, you die, and you come back. The laws of karma shall work. In fact, systems thinking strongly believes in karmic consequences. Okay. So this is what we wanted to present to you today, but we will be very happy to respond to your questions, which Mohan and
Yes.
Akila ma'am and the team, we are open to questions now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. So we have received
thank
some of the questions at the time of registration. So I will read out one by one and please answer it, sir.
Yeah.
So what
Very
are
good
the
question.
days-
Can I answer as I see? Is it okay, Sakthivel?
Yes, sir.
So there's a question.
I'm seeing one question. Madhusudanan Sundaresan.
Yes, sir.
As you said, problems can be solved and cannot be solved. Then systems thinking advocates uncertainty. No, Madhusudanan. Systems thinking does not advocate uncertainty. Systems thinking advocates you to deal with uncertainty carefully. That is all. I hope you got the difference. Uncertainty is real whether anybody likes it or not, Madhusudanan. In fact, the great Benjamin Franklin had said something very nice. He's a wise man. He said there are only 3 things certain in human life. Okay. Actually, he said life, death, and taxes. TAXES. That is Benjamin Franklin's version. Okay. So, but anyway, that's a humorous thing. We can sort of discount that as humor. So we don't advocate uncertainty. I hope I'm clear. Am I clear? Okay. We don't advocate uncertainty. We, as systems thinkers, we advocate dealing with uncertainty. Okay, great. What are the 2 types of systems thinking? Hari, would you like to answer that, hard and soft? Yeah.
There are hard systems thinking and soft systems thinking. So what we are actually talking is about soft systems thinking. All right. Most of the time, when we are dealing with problems which are qualitative in nature, okay, where most of the problems that we in our life is qualitative, isn't it? We can't put a number to it. That's one of the problems that we actually face. That's what LSG was also talking about, the operations research, where we try to put a number to everything that we do. So we
And the
try
best
to
thing is optimize it, saying it is the best solution. Nonsense. Which problem comes and tells you I'm a linear programming problem, solve me. What shit are these people talking? Come on.
Optimality exists only in the OR textbook. Okay, so but yeah, so what we talk about is the satisfying solutions. So what an optimal solution for me may be a very, very bad solution to you, and you and I interact with each other as a system, isn't it? Say, for example, a teacher in an exam setting, he wants to correct only a few sets of question papers. I mean, few answer scripts, or maybe few questions. So he sets a very, very easy exam. Okay, it's like tick, 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 tick. I can finish my work easily. As a teacher, I can do that. But the students, in that process, will not learn much. So what is optimal in terms of time for me will not be there is a problem for the student, because his learning is not going to be really very strong. Okay, so if you try to optimize yourself, be assured that there is somebody who is getting beaten because of it. All right. So the idea here in systems thinking is that, okay, don't look for optimal solution always. Okay, try to look for satisfying solution, where in a system you frame a system. This is what I'm going to look at. All of the stakeholders inside the system are if not benefited, not affected by what my decision is going to be. So that becomes satisfying solution. So that is, we in system thinking, we aspire for satisfying solution. So this satisficing solution is predominantly achieved qualitative systems thinking. So there is something called as soft systems methodology by Peter Strickland. Okay, and whatever we kind of, LSD has kind of evolved over a period of time, using system thinking for problem solving. I don't think I've never seen anything like this in any of the textbook as such. Okay, it's a soft systems methodology. Maybe if we have a big, long amount of time, we can.
No, it's actually a syncretic method, Dari. It's a combination of hard and soft, actually.
Hard and soft.
It's a synergy of hard and soft.
Hard and soft. And then we have something called as system dynamics, which is very proposed by the MIT school, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They use something called as system dynamics. They use hard data, and then they model the entire system and see how the system behaves for each of the intervention. So that is hard system dynamics. You have hard data and doing that. Again, having said that, they're dealing with quantitative numbers. Still, a lot of their connections and everything, there is a certain qualitative aspect to it. The more quantitative and less qualitative, we call it as hard. More qualitative and less quantitative, we call it as soft system. That's how it is.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Sakthivel, sir, any other questions, please?
Yes, sir. What are the ways to think as profession as a beginner?
Pardon, sir, I didn't understand the question, sir. Please.
What are the thinking models? Where various types of thinkings, like systems thinking, creative thinking. And
there's a huge list, sir. Sir, by the way, I wish I can share this. Mohan, would it be okay if I send you an email on the different types of thinking?
So that you can share it to others.
You can share it with the whole group, Mohan. There's a whole list of nearly 20 types of thinking, which people, our children can be trained. And if you ask me, Mohan, our children should be trained.
Yeah, in fact, the computational thinking is one such thing, which we are trying to promote.
Absolutely. Very correct. Thank you for pointing this out, Mohan.
Yeah.
I hope the Stanford course.
Yeah,
in fact, the Stanford course on computational thinking is very famous.
Yeah. And I have a specific question. Are there any specific tools are there for system thinkers?
I have answered you. I have answered you on the chat, Mohan.
Okay. No, you can also answer it in the overall.
It's not to everybody. There are many tools, actually. Many tools.
Let me give some examples of it. One is the rich pictures, using pictures depicting the problems. Okay, and then trying to come out with a solution. That is one thing. There is something called as causal loop diagrams. There is something which is an extension of causal loop diagram called as stock flow diagram, which is used to simulate the system behavior. Okay, these are some of the tools which are used in the systems thinking. Okay, so these are pretty much very popular tools. And especially there are softwares which help in doing that, called as WinSim. Okay, there is something called as AnyLogic, a software called as AnyLogic. Okay, where you can develop causal loop diagrams and develop stock flow diagrams and model the system the way you wanted to. But most importantly, it is not about modeling. It is about how you see the system. Your mental model becomes very important as far as systems thinking is concerned, because we use the word thinking there. So here the importance is to the thinker and not to the tool. So that is something that it has to be driven very hard into us, that how we think, how we see the problem. Are we seeing the problem as a whole? Are we seeing the interconnections between the entities? Are we seeing the interconnection between various systems? When we take decisions, are we even looking at the other parties, stakeholders who get affected by my decisions? Will that backfire onto me? These are some of the questions that we may have to ask when taking decisions. As systems thinkers, we have to develop that practice of seeing the problem in its entirety, in its whole. That is, predominantly we wanted to. Tools are very easy. We kind of learn it. It's just a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days that you will be mastering the tools. But thinking becomes very important. How you change yourself to think in a way.
Thank you, Hari. That's a good answer, because a powerful tool in the hands of an inadequate thinker can be a dangerous thing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the relationship between out-of-box thinking and systems thinking?
Yeah. Out-of-box thinking is one type of thinking which is very popularly, it comes under the broad area of creative thinking, Mohan. Okay. And very specifically, out-of-box thinking is very often equated or identified with lateral thinking, okay, which is very popular due to Edward de Bono and his works. So that's one of the modes of thinking, Mohan. And there are some principles for creative thinking also. Of course, we can't discuss all that today, but I wanted to plead with all of us. We have to, as a society of thinkers, we have to bring about massive changes in school education. And I can tell you that the results will be reaped by our nation in about 25 to 30 years.
30.
Because
That's
education is a slow cycle system. It's not a fast cycle system. You make an intervention now, for that intervention to bear fruits, it will take not less than 20 to 25 years more. That is the way we have to do. Mohan, you will agree with me. Both of us are alumni of IIT Madras.
Correct.
The seed sown by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the 1950s
Yeah,
took more than 50 years to yield results, Mohan.
correct. The IITs,
Am I
have
correct,
become
Mohan?
important. Yeah, IITs have become.
So sometimes we have to
globally
wait.
important.
We may not bear the fruits, but we have to work in such a way that others can benefit. That is the point.
That's the idea of window of perception. No, as a leader, one has to have a window
Exactly,
of perception.
exactly.
30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm worried only about my election, next election, I will not be having such institutions. I will not be looking at
It's a
reforming.
nice question from Dr. Kalpana. Yeah. Whether systems thinking can be integrated with machine learning? Well, instinctively, I can tell you yes, Dr. Kalpana. Instinctively. Although you can say I'm quite competent with systems thinking. I'm not that competent with machine learning. So I must say what I don't know. I don't know machine learning thoroughly enough. I have some kind of a cursory knowledge, but that's not enough. But instinctively, I can tell you yes. Okay. Instinctively, I can tell you yes.
As a professor who is actually working in system thinking and machine learning in IIT Bombay,
Okay, possible.
I've not read his work much, but it is possible, as you said. Okay,
No, but
so
if you have a reference, why don't you pass it on to Dr. Kalpana?
I'll do that. I don't have it handy
Benefit
right
from
now, but I'll
interacting
do
with
that.
that professor.
But again, one has to be very, very clear about what system thinking and what machine learning is. Machine learning is a tool, whereas systems thinking is thinking paradigm. All right. So that clarity is something that we must really have.
That is one.
Right.
At one point, Hari, we have to underscore heavily. Mohan sir, Sakthivel sir, and all friends. Hari, can I finish this, please? Yeah, Hari.
Yes, sure. Please.
Yeah. It's a very important point which I missed, which struck me. All dear friends there, please note one important point. If you are a practicing systems thinker, you will use more of pictures than words. Very, very, very important point. Systems thinking demands that you communicate through pictures and not through words. It's a very important thing because with words, people can bullshit. With pictures, you cannot bullshit. You try, and I'll tell you, you cannot bullshit with pictures because a picture will pin you down to your concept completely. That's a very important point.
Is the system thinking, is it system thinking is individualistic or can it be collective?
Oh, collective also. In fact, ideally it should be collective. Ideally it should be collective.
Malika's question is also something like that. Do collective intelligence work out for solving real world problems? Yes, true. Okay. But one has to be, we didn't do that exercise actually. There is something called a 3-second truth, which we actually do when we do in person.
In a real situation, we could have done that.
We could have done that. Now it might not work. In that, what we do as an experiment is we ask each of the participants to sing their favorite song from the bottom of their heart. It's like they have to sing whatever song it is from the bottom of the heart. When that happens, and all of them sing together in unison for 3 seconds, okay, what results is noise. Okay, it's called cacophony. That's what results. Okay, so that's when we kind of tell people that even though individually each one of them, whatever you sang was music, when it comes collective, it need not result in music. Individual music can result in collective noise. So the idea of collective intelligence will work only if all the people together who come together has a certain goal, very clear goal in their mind. If
some synergy has to be there. Yeah.
Some synergy has to be there. Yes.
Correct, Mohan. Actually, there are 3 fundamental principles to realize synergy. Of course, today I'm not outlining them because it takes you very deep into the subject. I think my purpose and Hari's purpose today was to create a strong interest in all of you in systems thinking and the truths that are embedded in systems thinking, basically.
But
That was our purpose.
how do the corporates, they give importance for system thinking? Many times, they want that their ideas only to be implemented, something like that. Top-down approach. Many of the corporations.
It is better they give importance to systems thinking because the times are changing. Okay, with the crisis that we are going to face in the few years, the climate change crisis, unless all corporates become systems, they embrace systems thinking or embrace collective holistic thinking. Okay, it may not be systems thinking, it can also be holistic thinking. That's a slight difference.
That's why the concept of learning organizations came up a long time back.
Correct.
But unfortunately, still organizations are not learning.
See, Mohan, there's an important point, Mohan, again for all friends. It's a very important point. Systems thinking and good knowledge of systems thinking will lay greater emphasis on character of the person than on the competence of the person.
Okay.
I hope this point is clear.
Okay.
For a human being,
character is much more important than the competence.
Much more important. Yeah. Unfortunately, our entire schooling system is putting a hell of a lot of emphasis on competence and less on character.
Correct.
So these are the tragedies that are around us today.
I think the new education policy is emphasizing on characters.
Yeah, to some extent.
To some extent, they try to promote the characters.
Kausalya Sendil was raising hands and she wanting to ask certain questions. Kausalya?
So shall we move to the next question, sir?
Yes, please.
Sure, sir, please.
How system thinking in pedagogy will help stakeholders?
Oh, systems thinking in teaching. Yeah, definitely what happens is the straight outcome is the students are likely and the teacher are likely to have a better understanding of the subject if systems thinking is used to teach the subject. So the understanding will be much deeper, the appreciation will be much deeper, the application out of that knowledge will be more robust. So
the very idea is, I will give you some practical. The moment, we talked about window of perception, you remember. So in that window of perception, the idea is that you try to connect other stakeholders which you don't originally see. Okay, and this is especially relevant in this kind of today's world where we are more interdisciplinary. Okay, I cannot go and say that I am a management professional. I'll only look at the concept of management. In fact, management is a potpourri of all this thing. As being a computer science engineer, you just cannot say that I'll only be coding. So I'll only be teaching the concepts of computer science. That's really not going to help. You have a business case behind it. You have a social cause behind it. When you develop a program, you have a social cause. The more systems thinker you are able to see why you do what you do. We are not discussing something called a success framework today, which LSG is, I would say, one of the classical masterpiece. Okay, so we're not discussing about that today, but you will, as a systems thinker, know why do you do what you do. That knowledge comes to you when you apply systems thinking during education. Therefore, the learning outcomes are obviously going to be better.
Sir, next question. Can you tell something about the system thinking in Indian context?
It's too general a question. I don't know what it's far too general a question, sir.
Yes.
Well, if I'll try to answer it in a different way. Are there many systems thinkers in India? Well, the evidence is weak as of today. Okay, evidence is not strong. Can we promote systems thinking in India? Yes, we can. We should. The sooner, the better. Okay. Then comes the question, systems thinking practices in India. Policy makers will benefit a lot if they adopt systems thinking principles in policy. Counterintuitive results are less likely to happen. When system thinking is used in policy. So India is yet to give evidence that systems thinking is used strongly on many fronts. In fact, in any sector that you may want to take, any economic sector and subsector, the evidence is not strong that systems thinking is used. This is what I observe, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next question. What are the ways to characterize system thinking, a system dynamics perspective?
Sorry, have you understood that?
What I think is, see, the characterization of systems thinking, again, is like hard systems approach, soft systems approach. All right. So again, in the hard systems approach, what are the ways in we can do? That's how it is. Apart from that, we're not very kind of clear about the question per se. Okay, characterizing systems thinking from system dynamics, because system dynamics is a subset of systems thinking.
System dynamics is a proper subset of system thinking.
Systems thinking. So I'm not really clear as to what that questioner wanted to ask. Maybe if he or she is there online, she can clarify that. We may do something about it.
So we will move to the next question, sir. How to maintain being professional in times of anger, workload, and overworked?
How to be professional?
How to maintain being a professional in times of anger, workload, and overworked?
Okay. It's a question to do with anger. Am I correct, sir? A-N-G-E-R.
Yes, sir.
Anger, workload, burnout.
So this is a question dealing with the human being's character, sir.
Yes.
It's a question dealing with character. Again, a wider window of perception will definitely help a person. Practicing, developing wider windows of perception will help everybody deal with their anger in a better manner, sir. Okay.
Again, one thing, it has to be very clear here. What do we say by professional? What do we mean by professional here? That's something which is very important. Only based on which we'll be able to clearly answer what it is. But what our understanding of professional need not be the understanding of the professional, what the other people also meant, the questioner also meant. But typically, if we say professional in the sense, one who does his job very in a perfect way, sense or a neat sense, one who is very spontaneous, one who is task oriented, one who finishes his job on time and all those things. Then whatever LSG says, that's how it actually works. But again, this anger management is also personal. Okay, so I would always say, this is my experience. I don't know if it is going to be applicable to everybody. So it's very simple. The burnouts is a result. Anger is a result of burnout in profession. Okay, or unhappiness is a result of burnout in this profession. There are only two things that you can actually do here. One is it's like pressure. No, pressure is force by unit area, right? So if there is going to be more number of forces, the idea is you expand the unit area so that the pressure comes down. The idea is you skill yourself so much, okay, so that you can take the pressure, or you reduce the force that actually comes to you. That is essentially you take lesser number of work or whatever it is, so that you don't get burnt out during this process. So it depends on the individual again, what kind of an individual he is. He's very ambitious, he wants to do more. Then he has to necessarily expand his skills, and so that he'll be able to tackle with the pressure. That's the quick solution that we can give, but we don't really understand as to what he means by being professional and all those things. Therefore, I'm not sure if this
actually, Hari, the idea of expanding window of perception is equivalent to expanding the unit area.
Yes, correct, exactly. Right.
Thank you, sir. The next question is a very general one. What will be our future if everything will be done by ChatGPT?
It's a very, I don't know, I'm not an expert again in answering that.
I don't know enough, sir. But I can tell you one thing. When I use ChatGPT to talk about me, because that's a normal thing, it spewed absolute nonsense in the response, sir. I can tell you that much. The answer I got was absolute nonsense, full of lies. I'm supposed to be a great aeronautical engineer according to ChatGPT. And the only connection I have with aeronautical engineering is, yes, Many years ago, I was an aircraft maintenance engineer in Air India in Bombay. Many years ago. That's the only connection. Other than that, I don't have any connection. So chat GPT also can
Yeah,
be
because
formed.
it has learned only that much. That's why, it is able.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
See,
We are a
one
long
thing
way
that
off.
what
We
we
are a
can
long
tell
way
you
off. We are a long way off, I think.
one thing what I can tell you is about this chat GPT and all those things. There are a lot of people who are complaining that content writing and jobs such as that have come down because of chat GPT. Because most of the contents are developed by the chat GPT itself. That's the reason. See, but the point is there is always an human potential. Okay, so somebody who used to be content writer, now if they don't have a job, are they going to stop with that? I'm not having a job, so therefore I'm just going to be like that forever. I'm going to be unemployed forever. No, that's not the way the universe operates. That's not the way people operate, isn't it? We actually try to find out another job. We try to upskill. That happens eventually. So it is something that we don't have to be. Although it is inevitable. It has come. We really can't do anything about it. The only best possible course of action that we have is to upskill ourselves and see what is relevant. Maybe turn towards being more creative. Okay, so if all the jobs are being done, all the logic related jobs are being done by ChatGPT and all those things, you try to become more creative, try to become artistic, try to find an artist inside you. Maybe that's the way I think we should go. That's my opinion. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the world with the advent of ChatGPT, Bard, and all those things. We have to wait and watch.
So the
I think
next
Mohan has posed a question now.
yes, sir.
Are there any limitations or drawbacks or challenges in systems thinking? Like in any field, Mohan, systems thinking has its own limitations, and it lies in the understanding and practice of the approach, basically. That is where the limitations lie. Okay? Now, if the question is, can we solve any problem using systems thinking? My answer is yes. Okay. In fact, we don't have time. Otherwise, I would given you an actual crazy example that happened in IIT Madras, where a problem was solved by our own students using
It's a
systems thinking.
myth problem, right?
Illa, it's a different one. It's a different one. It's a social one. I can see Hari smiling because he knows the problem, This was a very mischievous, it came from very mischievous students, But ultimately, they realized that there was sense in systems thinking. So we could sort of tackle it, So ultimately, the limitations are more with the practitioner and the thinker than the method itself, Mohan.
Right.
So systems thinking is like the proverbial knife. You can cut a fruit or you can cut a throat. Depends on what you want to do.
Again, if you are in a crisis situation, isn't it, where you have to take decisions in seconds,
Fast, yeah.
and faster, at that point in time,
You are muted. You are muted.
yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So when you are in a crisis where you have to take quicker decision in a few seconds, at that point in time, you'll not be thinking about systems thinking. So there are certain places wherein you can use systems thinking. There are certain places where you cannot. It's a paradigm. It's a thinking paradigm. So the moment you become systems thinker, that itself will show the world in a different way altogether. The way in which you deal with individuals also changes. Okay, so you'll no more be resentful. You will no more be angry about something. You'll understand the other person's perspective more and more. It also has a personal the change that it brings when you give practice in system thinking. That is something which is wonderful about system thinking. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Now it is time for a formal vote of thanks. I invite Professor Mythili Prakash.
Thank you, Mr. Sakthivel. It's a really excellent, wonderful, interactive session. The synchronization between you two is another way of synergy we can make understand. Really, even a layman can understand with your excellent live examples about distinguishing system thinking and design thinking. So much like pen and ball pen and cobra and carbon and how that spam mail. So much which we can easily interrupt and understand that issues and how it synchronizes with your thought. As you said, one problem can solve will leads to the new problems. I thought of, as you said, that allopathy medicine only. When you take for something, the side effects will leads you to the another problem. It keeps go on. There is no 100% problem solving. It's your goal is achieved, sir. All are towards system thinking now. It's everybody will definitely get into that so much. It's very interesting. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Dr. Ganeshan and Dr. Hariharan. And as usual, thanks to Mr. H.R. Mohan. So give us such a wonderful session for all the society members. I thank all these joint societies, IEEE CS and ACM, and last but not least, the members. So many are present this time, more than 80 in this GMAT. 90, more than 90 members are present at one point of time. All so many questions they have posted. Question answer session itself took time that much. It is that shows how interesting session it is. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. LSG and Dr. Hari. And in fact, as you have suggested, possibly now we will try to organize one physical meeting when so that you can have a more interactiveness, and possibly we will extend it by minimum 3 hours, half a day session, so that you get some.
With their examples and the presentations, it's definitely required. So we have to make use of it, sir.
Mohan sir, you are muted. Mohan sir, you are muted.
Oh, both of them, they have interest in Madras, so they do come to Chennai, and definitely if you can inform us in advance, we'll organize that physical meeting, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure, we will do that.
Again, Mohammed Saqib raised his hand. We can find out what it is about, please. Yeah.
Mohammed
Saqib, are you there? Okay. Yeah, in case he's not there, we can close, sir. Yeah. So, Mohan, thank you very much. Dr. Mythili, thank you. Sakthivel, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all the members who are there. I hope you found some use in what we have shared. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
A good day. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Good night. How come there's so much of people are muting the other people, right? Something.
Yes, sir. And also so many as on their video and showing so much these things. Maybe mostly from